Space, the final frontier, a boundless ocean of mystery where humanity dares to dream, to explore, and to define its place among the stars. At its helm, Captain James T. Kirk, a man of courage, instinct, and unshakable will. But what happens when the unknown fights back? When the stars themselves cast judgment on humanity's ambition? What if Q, the omnipotent arbiter of humanity's fate, chose Kirk instead of Picard? Would Kirk's boldness light the path to salvation, or lead us to ruin? Today, we imagine the impossible. But first, before we continue, a like on this video would be a massive help for the channel, and who knows, if we hit 200 likes, there might just be a part 2. The distortion grows stronger, twisting and warping as it pulls the Enterprise into a strange, empty void. On the bridge, the hum of the engines suddenly stops, replaced by a heavy silence. Red warning lights flash across the room, casting eerie shadows as the ship trembles. The crew shifts nervously, their hands moving quickly over consoles, searching for answers. Uhura looks up at her station, her voice clear and sharp, cutting through the tension. The arrival of Q. Captain, communications are down. No signals, no frequencies. It's like we've been cut off from everything. Fascinating. Sensors detect nothing. No stars, no space, no time. We appear to be in a void of pure non-existence. Nothingness doesn't just happen, Mr. Spock. Someone or something is behind this. The crew looks around, confused, trying to make sense of what's happening. Suddenly, a figure appears in the middle of the bridge. It's Q, dressed in an over-the-top Starfleet captain's uniform, a smug grin on his face as he looks around with an air of confidence. James Tiberius Kirk, the legend himself. I've been looking forward to this. The chance to meet humanity's most celebrated cowboy. Well, well, Captain Kirk, I've been waiting for this moment. The man who thinks he can tame the stars. How very quaint. I don't know who or what you are, but if you've got something to say, get on with it. The Enterprise doesn't take detours for nonsense. Oh, Captain, I'm not here to negotiate. I'm here to judge. You, James Kirk, have been chosen to represent your species. Today, we find out if humanity deserves its place among the stars, or if you're nothing more than children playing with fire. Judge humanity, and you think I'll just play along? Sorry to disappoint, but I don't answer to bullies. You don't have a choice, Captain. Let the trial begin. The accusations begin. The courtroom feels heavy as Q, seated on a grand throne, waves his hand. Around Kirk and his crew, glowing holograms begin to appear, showing moments from his career. These are Kirk's proudest victories, times where he stood tall as a Starfleet captain. But Q doesn't see triumphs, he sees arrogance. To Q, these moments are not celebrations of heroism, they are evidence. Evidence of humanity's arrogance. Its relentless need to impose its will on the universe. Q doesn't just challenge Kirk's actions, he questions his motives, painting him not as a hero, but as a reckless gambler playing with the universe. The first hologram brightens, showing the planet Beta 3 form, the return of Acrons. It reveals Kirk destroying Landru, the computer that controlled the population. The moment plays out. Landru's core sparks and fizzles, and the people of Beta 3 look confused and frightened as their ruler falls silent. Ah, here we are, Captain Kirk, the Liberator. Tell me, what gave you the right to destroy an entire civilization's way of life? Was it their cries for help? Oh wait, they didn't ask for your help, did they? Kirk remains composed, but steps forward, his voice measured. Landru wasn't a leader, it was a machine. It enslaved those people, stripped them of their individuality. Freedom isn't just a luxury, Q, it's a necessity. And you decided what's best for them? You, a mere human, playing God. How very bold. But you tell me, Captain, did you ever stop to wonder if they were better off with Landru? Or was your moral outrage just a convenient excuse to swing your hammer? Captain Kirk's actions were logical, Q. The people of Beta 3 could not progress while under Landru's control. Removing the oppressive force was a necessary step towards their evolution. Ah, Spock, always the voice of reason. But tell me, what good is evolution when it's forced? Is it still progress when someone else decides the pace? The holograms fade, leaving Kirk standing in the heavy silence of the courtroom. Q smirks, leaning forward on his throne, his voice taking on a sharper edge. Do you see the pattern, Kirk? Wherever you go, chaos follows. You pride yourself on saving lives, yet your methods are always the same. Break the rules, impose your will, and call it justice. But tell me, Captain, how many of those lives would still call you a hero? I never claimed to be a hero. I make decisions no one else wants to make because someone has to. If that's what it takes to protect the galaxy, then so be it. Oh, how admirable. Yet you've proven my point. Humanity often falls short of wisdom and understanding. There's a tendency to act with arrogance and impulsiveness, reaching for things without fully grasping their consequences. Q rises from his throne, his tone softening but his expression growing more menacing. But this isn't just about the galaxy, Kirk. It's about you, the man beneath the captain, the decisions that haunt you, the times you told yourself you had no choice. He snaps his fingers, and the courtroom begins to dissolve. The crew looks around as the walls melt into darkness, replaced by the lively streets of a 1930s city. Q appears beside Kirk, now dressed in a sharp suit and a fedora, a smirk playing on his lips. Q isn't finished. His trial shifts from the ground scale of Starfleet to the personal weight of Kirk's past. He takes Kirk to the moment that defines him, a choice between love and duty, where the cost of doing what's right still lingers in his heart. Reliving the past. Edith Keeler standing outside her mission, her face lit with kindness. Kirk recognizes the scene instantly, his body tensing. Q strolls past him casually, tipping his hat at Edith before turning back to the captain. And here we are, the great James T. Kirk, at a crossroads of love and duty. Edith Keeler, an innocent woman who believed in peace, in a better future. The woman who made you feel something no mission, no starship ever could. And yet, you let her die. Tell me, Kirk, how does it feel to sacrifice love for the greater good? Kirk stands motionless for a moment. When he speaks, his voice is steady but carries the weight of his emotions. I don't need to justify what happened. Her survival would have meant the end of millions. I had a duty to protect the timeline, no matter the cost. Q walks closer, circling Kirk like a predator toying its prey. Duty or cowardice? You are quick to congratulate yourself for making the tough choices. But let's be honest, Kirk. Isn't that just your way of avoiding responsibility for the messes you create? After all, it was your choice to come here in the first place. Kirk's eyes flash with anger, but he keeps his composure. It wasn't about avoiding responsibility. It was about taking it. I didn't come here to play God. I came here to set things right. The timeline demanded her death, Q. It wasn't my choice. It was fate's. Ah, fate. The ultimate excuse. Convenient, isn't it? But here's the thing, Kirk. You could have chosen differently. You could have saved her. You could have let her live and risk everything. But you didn't. Why? Because it was easier to let her go. Admit it. You were afraid. I wasn't afraid, Q. I was heartbroken. But fear had nothing to do with it. It was about sacrifice. About putting the needs of the many above my own pain. Sacrifice? Oh, Kirk, you really do love your noble speeches, don't you? But let's take a closer look, shall we? With a wave of Q's hand, the scene changes. Kirk now stands on the sidewalk, just steps away from Edith Keeler. She begins crossing the street, unaware of the truck speeding towards her, the one that will end her life. But this time, something is different. Kirk isn't frozen in shock. He can move. He can act. Go on. Save her. One step, and she's yours. You can rewrite history, Captain. The timeline will survive. Maybe. Isn't it worth the risk? Isn't love worth defying the rules for? Grows louder. Captain, you know the consequences. Kirk freezes, his face full of pain. Slowly, he steps back, his hand gripping the edge of a nearby lamppost for support. Edith steps on the path of the truck, and the impact sends a sickening thud through the air. Kirk's face crumples as he looks away, unable to watch. Q claps slowly, his voice is thick with sarcasm as he breaks the silence. Bravo, Kirk. Such a hero. But tell me, how many nights have you lain awake, wondering if you made the right choice? How many times have you replayed this moment in your mind, wishing you had done things differently? Kirk turns to face Q, his expression both raw and determined. Every night, Q. and I'll live with that pain for the rest of my life. But that's what it means to be human. We make sacrifices, we endure loss, and we keep going no matter how much it hurts. That's our strength, not some fantasy of perfection, but the courage to face our flaws and rise above them. Fascinating. You really do seem to enjoy punishment. But tell me, Kirk, what happens when the sacrifices are too much? When the pain outweighs the progress? At what point do you decide it's not worth it anymore? Kirk stares Q down, his voice strong. Never. As long as there's one life worth saving, one star left to reach, humanity will keep going. That's what makes us who we are. In forcing Kirk to relive one of his most painful moments, Q hoped to break him, but instead, he saw the heart of humanity, the willingness to endure pain, to accept the weight of impossible choices, and to carry on, no matter the cost. The ultimate test. Q's final test isn't about Kirk's past, it's about his future. He creates a scenario that pushes Kirk to his breaking point, forcing him to make an impossible choice. In the simulation, a Starfleet colony appears on the screen, placed dangerously close to the battlefield. Q appears beside Kirk, a satisfied look on his face as he watches the tensions rise. The stakes are simple, Captain. Your ship is outmatched. Your crew is on the verge of annihilation. But there's a way out. Destroy the colony, sacrifice the lives of a few hundred innocent civilians, and I'll let the Enterprise go free. Or, hold to your precious ideals and watch everyone you care about die. What's it going to be, Kirk? Kirk shoots a glare at Q, his face turning serious. The bridge crew watches anxiously, waiting for his order. Captain, we're running out of time. Kirk doesn't answer immediately. He paces, his mind racing. The tension is intense. This is the essence of Q's challenge, to strip away Kirk's confidence, to force him into a corner where no option feels right. Will he abandon his principles to save his crew, or defy Q's game and risk everything? Suddenly, Kirk stops walking. He turns to Q, his voice calm but challenging. You don't get it, do you? This isn't about me. It's not about my crew, or the colony, or even humanity. It's about you. You're desperate to prove we're flawed because deep down, you're afraid we're not. You're afraid we're capable of more than you can understand. Afraid? Me? Don't flatter yourself, Captain. If you weren't afraid, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't care what humanity does or doesn't deserve. But I'll tell you this, we don't give up. We don't back down, and we don't believe in no-win scenarios. Kirk quickly orders a plan. The Enterprise focuses its remaining resources on disabling the alien ship's weapons without destroying them. It's reckless, dangerous, and seemingly impossible, but it works. The colony is saved, and the enemy fleet is neutralized. Q watches as Kirk defeats the odds again, proving that humanity's greatest strength isn't in its perfection, it's its refusal to accept defeat. Well, Kirk, I'll admit, you're not boring. Perhaps there's something to this species of yours after all. But don't think for a second that this is over. I'll be watching. Humanity's spirit. In the end, it isn't Kirk's defiance that defeats Q. It's something far more human. Something Q, for all his power, struggles to understand. Kirk refuses to surrender. Not to fear, not to impossible odds, and certainly not to Q's cynical view of humanity. And that impresses him. Well, Captain, I must admit, you've surprised me. Most humans plead, bargain, or break under the weight of my tests. But you're different. You cling to your flawed ideals like a drowning man clings to driftwood. And somehow, against all logic, you make it work. Kirk stays calm, looking at Q without blinking. The bridge crew stands behind him, their trust in their captain clear in their silence. It's not about logic, Q. It's about hope. Humanity isn't perfect, and we don't pretend to be. But we fight for something better, no matter how many times we fall. And that's what sets us apart. Hope? Is that what you call it? I call it stubbornness, Kirk. A refusal to accept reality. You humans dream of conquering the stars, yet you leave chaos in your wake. You call it progress, but how often do you stop to consider the cost? Kirk steps forward, his voice steady but passionate. Every time, we know the cost, Q, and we pay it willingly. Because progress isn't about perfection, it's about perseverance. It's about trying, failing, and trying again. That's what makes us who we are. Q pauses, his smirk fading slightly as he studies Kirk. For the first time, he looks almost uncertain, as though Kirk's words have struck a nerve. After a moment, Q claps his hands together with a sharp sound that echoes through the room. But tell me, Captain, do you really believe that humanity can sustain this endless cycle of ambition and chaos? That you'll always find a way to rise above it? Kirk's expression softens, his voice quieter, but still strong. I don't just believe it, Q. I've seen it. I've seen people rise to challenges they've never thought they could face. I've seen sacrifice, bravery, and compassion in the darkest of times. Humanity isn't perfect, but we're worth fighting for. Q tilts his head, considering Kirk's words. His playful demeanor returns, but there's a hint of respect in his eyes. Perhaps you're right, Kirk. Perhaps your species is worth keeping around, for now. Your flaws are just as glaring as ever, but your resilience, now that's something to admire. It's not often I encounter a species that refuses to bow, even when the odds are stacked against them. He snaps his fingers, and the courtroom dissolves. The crew finds themselves back on the bridge of the Enterprise. The hum of the ship's engines, a more comforting reminder of normalcy. The view screen shows the stars once more, stretching out endlessly before them. Q could have obliterated them, dismissed them as insignificant specks in the vastness of the cosmos, but instead, he let them go. Not just out of mercy, but out of curiosity. Because in Kirk and his crew, Q saw something he couldn't quite understand, and that made all the difference. Uhura exhales in relief, and McCoy leans on the console, shaking his head in disbelief. Well, that's one for the history books. An omnipotent being puts us on trial and leaves impressed. What's next, Jim? A dinner invitation from the Klingons? No, give them ideas, Bones. He turns to Spock, who is calmly analyzing the situation as usual. Spock, what's your take on all this? Think Q learned something from us? Highly unlikely, Captain. However, it is logical to assume that Q's curiosity about humanity remains unanswered. I suspect we will counter him again. Great. Something to look forward to. Kirk chuckles, then turns to Sulu. Set a course, Master Sulu. There's a galaxy waiting out there. Aye, Captain. Engaging warp drive. The Enterprise hums as it accelerates into the warp, the stars stretching into streaks of light. In the end, Kirk didn't win Q's trial through force or cunning. He won it by being human, flawed, determined, and unyielding. Through Kirk, Q saw the heart of humanity, not its perfection, but its ability to reach for something greater. And as the Enterprise sails into the unknown, one truth becomes clear. There is no limit to what humanity can achieve when it refuses to give up. If you enjoyed this video, hitting the like button or sharing would mean the world to us. Subscribing would be great too. It's not rocket science, but trust me, it makes a huge difference. You'll get more videos like this, and we'll continue bringing you the content you love. We'd also love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment with any suggestions or ideas for future videos. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.